Back in the day, on the original THIS channel, Giva had more of a focus on imitating Gilva than it does today, and one of the first departures from this facade were the albums. And since then, they've become an integral part of the channel as well as a staple for the music libraries of fans everywhere. Back in 2016, when the THIS channel started, he maintained this sort of kayfabe, this facade that he was one person. I'm borrowing this word kayfabe from professional wrestling because it's really the same principle. So professional wrestling isn't real per se. Even disregarding the fights and just talking characters, they're exactly that, characters. And kayfabe refers to this insistence that it's all real. It's essentially this shared suspension of disbelief. Although everyone knows its performance, the act is very rarely, if ever, dropped, in order to give this impression of reality. And Giva functioned in a very similar way. While the act was done in part to deceive new viewers, it was also done for the fans. We all knew there were many people behind the channel, but the insistence that it was this one person who was uploading all the high quality rips was, in a way, magical. But eventually the idea of albums came around. Compile the best work from the channel with higher audio quality than YouTube can provide, and crediting the creators if they'd like. Post the albums up for free on file sharing sites, and donate the proceeds from Bandcamp to charity. It was a great idea, but it was also quite a departure from the character. But in the spirit of kayfabe, it was given an in-universe explanation. The Giva character was compiling his favorite video game music into a downloadable album, but that didn't explain why they still had the artist names on them. And this was brought up in the description of every album announcement to date, as the artist names have been corrupted in some form or another. As revealed in the Volume 7, Part 2 announcement description and explained in my Haunted House Explained video, this ended up being caused by Woodman. In my observations, there appear to be three main types of albums. Topic albums, which compile rips from certain topics such as Grandad 64, Heaven Grandad, Kirby Rip Attack, and PC Master Rips. Similar to those, there are event albums. Sometimes on the channel, there were these days dedicated to one specific joke, and when the day ended, an album compiling all of them would be released. In fact, today, we're celebrating the anniversary of the first one ever to be released, 7 Gram Dab, and the last main category of albums are volumes. These are often huge albums with hundreds of songs from all different types of rips. But the numbering on these is a little complicated. There's one, which was the original album. Volume 2 is a joke album filled with many pictures of Angry Joe. Volume 3 and Negra is a great album. Volume 4 Hours is a compilation of rips from the reboot. Volume 5 is another joke album containing variations on the Nutshack theme song. Volume 6.66 is fairly standard. Volume 7 was released to commemorate the end of the channel, and it was so massive it needed a second part. Volume 7 Part MM2 would. The Halloween event ended with Volume 8-Bit Beast, and if we continue on with this trend, the Christmas Comeback Crisis would logically end with the Volume 9, but that's still ongoing at the moment, so we don't know yet. It's also worth noting that there's an album called The Phantom Rips that isn't on Bandcamp, but can still be found through the big announcement video. But there are a few albums worth mentioning that don't seem to fit into any of these categories. The album with only a dot as its name contains no music and was the launching point of the ARG that inspired this series. Its art happens to be a parody of Blank Banshee Zero. Then there's Big Guy Circulation, which is a direct reference to this album on Triple Q's Bandcamp, All-Star Circulation. The original is a mashup of All-Star and Renai Circulation, and Big Eye Circulation replaces All-Star with Banestar, a Bane posting parody. And then there's Ooh, I Smoke the Weed, I'm Bob Dylan. While most albums contain previous rips with the occasional original track, this one is the opposite. It contains a couple tracks that were featured on the channel, but most are covers that are original to the album. This is a piece of SiIvaGunner content that spawned almost entirely from the Bandcamp. This has been my favorite album for a while, and I was curious what the story behind it was. So I reached out to the original creator of the Bob Dylan impression, PinkieOats, to see how this album came to be. As it turns out, the first Bob Dylan cover ever recorded was for the Phantom Rips. It was Can't Say Goodbye to Yesterday from Metal Gear Solid 2. It was this spur-of-the-moment idea, recorded on a bad headphone mic, but everyone seemed to love it. And so Bob Dylan rips started occasionally popping up on the channel. And apparently, the album was made at the insistence of Chase, who really liked the Bob Dylan impression. And you know what? I don't blame him. It's really great. So thank you guys so much for watching, but stay tuned because we have a performance from Bob Dylan himself. Take it away, Bob.
I smoked the weed for 420. Let's go. Da-da-da-da-da. It's the one and only D-O-double-G.
Snoop Dogg.
Da-da-da-da-da. You know mama with the D-I-E.
Yeah. You know the West Coast is back for all you suckers. So put something in the air. Put it in there. Yeah. Sup, SNOP?